find ourselves in a community centre in a small urban rural town. The whole of the entire population of the small town is in this community centre, and one of those people is you, and you are
Robin Finkelbutter.
Robin Finkelbutter. Are you male or female?
Ooh, female, I think.
Female.
Robin with a Y.
Robin Finkelbutter. Robin Finkelbutter is here on her own. She's how old?
19.
She's 19-year-old.
She's a bit ditzy round the edges.
Ditzy around the edges. Okay, describe it physically.
Okay, she's got a bit of a muffin top. She's wearing like leggings and like a blouse that comes down to sort of her calves. She's got like a jacket which comes down to here, but it's like a hoodie with a fur lining on it.
Okay, yeah, got you. Okay.
She's got brown or dark brown hair and a ponytail, but she's got a fringe. Brown eyes. Quite big brown eyes. She's not like mega attractive, but she's got like really sort of doughy brown eyes.
Okay. She's sitting alone in a corner of this community centre, and she's watching everyone that she's ever grown up with and ever known very, very distraught in this community centre. People are wheeling in bottles of water, big packs of bottles of water. There's food, big crates of food being bottled in from trucks from outside. Everyone, there's sleeping blankets, there's people unpacking black bags that you can see that they've just literally shoved belongings into, slinging black bags down. There's a hustle, there's a bustle, and everyone is absolutely terrified.
And meanwhile, part of a military convoy is heading into the same village. Some of them are just soldiers, some of them are Red Cross, and on board one of these vehicles is
General Fritz.
General Fritz.
General Fritz.
He's actually sat in an armoured fighting vehicle. So he's inside a fully armoured thing. He's in command of a small group of things. He has a lieutenant and a captain with him. He's in charge of this, the military outfit here. There's some 50 men and women who are actual soldiers, and 2 other AF like armoured fighting vehicles. And there are 3 lorries, all containing Red Cross first aid. And you're heading down a winding path into this rural village.
General Fritz is a 6-foot broad, a very wide-shouldered man with stubble across his face. He looks very weathered, like he's been on the road, and he hasn't actually had a wash in days.
What nationality?
He's Austrian.
Austrian, okay.
Austrian. Yeah.
And he's in a UN convoy. They're all painted white.
Yeah.
You've got blue beret on. Camouflage outfit.
What's your character's name?
Robin.
Robin. As Robin sits there, she can hear this massive convoy coming down the main road of the town. What does she do?
She's sat in the corner. She's worried about her friends who should be here but aren't. One friend, Terry, is she doesn't know where she lost him, but he hasn't made it here yet, and she's been keeping an eye out for him. And her other friend, Carrie, is also absent at the moment, and she's a bit concerned that they might have been caught up in the troubles. So she's sort of sitting in the corner by herself because these are her close friends, and everybody else seems busy and all the adults seem preoccupied, and she doesn't want to get in the way, and she's a bit concerned that she's not very strong. So she doesn't want to get underfoot, which is why she's in the corner. But she's sort of chewing her nails, or a bit like biting off one of her little fingernails, which were painted, but now they're a bit chipped around the edges. She doesn't know what's going on either, and she's concerned because nobody's said anything.
Okay.
So they've just hustled her to come to the community centre, and she's been dragged away from her house, which is like a small outlying sort of farmhouse on the edge of the village, and she's been dragged in there with her parents, but she doesn't know why.
She notices a young girl quite close to her crying, about 6 or 7 years old. She looks quite distraught, quite lost. What do you do?
I go over and I'm like, there, Angelica. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Just stay with me for the moment. I'll try and keep. And it's like her worry is coming through. She doesn't really quite know what to do. She's sort of at an age where she doesn't really want to play with children. And then she sort of, the only thing she can think of is she sort of picks her up and goes, "Come on," and like sort of holds her close and gives her a hug.
Roll the dice. The child is absolutely inconsolable. She weeps even louder because she completely notices your tension and your stress. She doesn't feel convinced that everything's going to be alright.
Meanwhile, the convoy drives down into the village, and the soldiers start getting out.
General Fritz is the first to emerge from the vehicle. He starts barking orders, issuing commands, getting a perimeter set. His big booming voice can be heard within the community centre. "Get a perimeter set up here! You and you! I want you on that and that lookout there and that lookout there! I want eyes in all directions! Move, move!" And people start unpacking weaponry as well from these convoys as well, and setting up an actual artillery-based perimeter around this community centre.
So it's late in the day, it's heading towards getting dark as the perimeter's being set up rapidly with purpose, as if they need to be ready for dark, but the villagers aren't sure why. The military aren't telling them anything, they've just been hustled into this space. It was the local police force that made them go there originally, but there are some stragglers that haven't made it back yet. The military are trying to make order out of this in this tiny village, but the military themselves haven't been informed on what the threat is, only that it's a Code 1 violation attempt, and the general has to be on point for any possible circumstance, but he doesn't understand why, because there's been no cause for this uproar in this particular area, because it's a peaceful part of the country. The rest of the country is going to shit, not here.
He also barks commands at the Red Cross people as well to hurry their medical supplies and everything into the community centre and set up an actual sort of base within the community centre that is the corner for the Red Cross.
The Red Cross guys get out of the lorries in hazmat suits.
Oh my god.
And start unloading supplies. The first thing they do is they get out the inflatable things so they can create a sealed off entrance to the community centre. And they start inflating it and sealing off the community centre and putting up biohazard signs.
There is a small group of 3 men who come out of one of the military vehicles wearing lab coats as well. These, by visual appearances, seem to be scientists of some nature. But that is only just because they're wearing lab coats. This is from the point of view of the people within the community centre. 2 hours pass. The perimeter is set up. Nobody is allowed to leave this community centre. General Fritz has come in. He's come onto a megaphone and said, "Okay, everybody, your attention. My name is General Fritz, and it is my job to keep you safe. Be under no illusions, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That is what I intend to do. If you disobey any orders, you put your life at risk. We are now under martial law." And hands a megaphone to lieutenant.
Robin is trying to console Angelica still at this point, trying to sort of play with her and keep her occupied. And when all of this, she's just sort of startled and she doesn't know really know what to do. Pulls Angelica close and sort of sits down. She's like, there, and starts trying to takes her by the hand and starts trying to find her parents and starts just going to like adults and the senior members. She's like, what's going on? Anybody? And like people seem to just be ignoring her and shoving her to one side a bit, but then she's sort of trying to be like, hey, come on, I'm a grown up too, you know?
The person that you say that to is the librarian, who is old Mary Watkins, who you know very well because you have spent many a weekend with your nose in a book.
Well, come on, Mary, what's going on? What's going on?
Oh, I don't know, Robin. Apparently there was an announcement on the television, and something's going on. I'm not too sure. We just all got hustled in here. I don't know.
I didn't catch all of the announcement. I only caught the tail end, and it told us all to come here because of some kind of infection. But I didn't think it was real.
Do a listen check. Behind 17. Behind you, you hear a man and a wife speak up at the mention of infection, and you obviously hear them talking about what they saw on the television as well, and they mention something to do of an outbreak, some sort of disease, some sort of pandemic.
Meanwhile, part of the organised perimeter is a squad of soldiers have actually been organised to watch the people inside the community centre with orders to shoot if they see certain circumstances. The general is just talking to them and Fritz is issuing their orders.
Soldiers, you know the situation. We have to maintain order, trying to make sure that these people do not panic. However, it is our job to keep them safe, no matter what, even if that means putting their lives in danger to protect them.
The scientists that got out of the Red Cross earlier seem to have set up all of their technology, and they come over to give an initial report to the general.
At that point, a huge scream goes up from just in the center of the mass of these people. It's a woman's scream that is the terrifying shriek is so loud that it draws the attention from everybody. Everybody stops, and suddenly people move out of the way to see what was going on, and this woman backs away from her husband that is now on all fours, eyes white as sheets as if they've gone back into the head, and he's crawling on all fours as if he's almost possessed, like there's some sort of demonic creature in his body, and he's sort of like dragging his own legs behind him, and he's trying to like clutch at this woman, but his eyes are so white and the colour's just drained out of his face, and this woman's screaming at the sight of her husband, just like
Robin takes Angelica by the hand and just starts backing off, pulling her with her until she's backed up against a wall, and then she looks around frantically and she's just desperately looking for a way out now. She's looking for a door, a window, anything. She looks up at a gallery where she can see military personnel talking and some people in white coats.
And just as she's surveying that, another absolutely shrill scream comes out from the woman as what she recognises her husband that was her husband sinks his teeth into her ankle as she collapses to the floor. At that point, military personnel push people out the way, literally butting them out the way with their guns, and they make a complete perimeter around these two. She's bleeding on the floor, and he's gnawing at her leg and chewing at it until the foot comes off. Like, ah! And there's just a perimeter of soldiers, guns drawn, between the people on them.
Up in the office, the three scientists. There's an area where the general is able to look down in the community centre without actually being in it. The soldiers that have just busted in have got full biohazard gear on. They're all masked up. You can't see any of their faces. Completely anonymous. They're not shooting, and the people are very confused. And he looks down, and the scientists talking to the general, being like, "Yes, the infection seems to be accelerating its growth rate. We're not quite sure how yet. We need to do more experiments. We must keep these hostages alive. People alive. We need to conduct more research, and the longer we can keep them alive for, and the more experiments we can do upon them, the better. Yes, we are in agreement about this."
Do a listen check. You don't hear any of this. You just hear commotion and screaming. The general. One of the containment units that were brought in by the scientists, that is a really heavy sort of metal container with little portholes that you can see in, and it can house about 10 people shoulder to shoulder. But this is a unit that was brought in, that literally detached from the back of one of the vehicles, and when it detached, wheels emerged from the bottom, so it could be moved into the community centre and placed in one of the corners.
As they are setting it up and starting to move it, something happens on the perimeter, and suddenly there's machine gun fire, and the general hears this and rushes out. Make a perception check to see what's going on.
16.
He rushes directly to where he hears a machine gun fire, and he looks out, and he hears over the radio at the same time as he's looking out. It's official, sir. We have uncontained hostiles approaching. Uncontained hostiles. They seem to be manifesting the same problem as in Gafaria.
I need clarification, soldier, on numbers. How many numbers are we looking at?
Just 2 right now, sir, but you can never tell with these types.
Keep your eyes on the distance. If they close in beyond 200 meters, you have permission to shoot on sight. Shoot to kill.
Yes, sir. Red 14 out, sir.
At this point, everybody, like the soldiers who have created the ring around these two, that man and that woman with their ankle being chewed off, their commotion is becoming so heavy that they're struggling to keep people back because people want to see what's going on. Screams going everywhere, kids crying. There's just blood everywhere, all over the floor, and there's just such a big commotion. People are now steaming towards the entrance, trying to get out. There's
Robin's
people
amongst them,
climbing up to try and find any way out of this community centre. When they reach the doorway or any window, they are immediately presented with an armed officer. One of the armed officers shouts, "Everybody calm down! Get back right now, or we are authorized to use force!" What do you do?
Robin sort of grabs up Angelica, sort of just as a without thinking, natural kind of response, and sort of holds her away from the soldiers. Be like, "But these things, you have to let us out."
The soldier simply responds with, "Get back now."
She just sort of drops down to her knees and sort of starts sobbing, and B's like, but this
Sense
is...
motive. I know I'm prompting you a little bit here.
No, you're allowed. It's totally...
6. You are not sure whether this guy would actually shoot you and Angelica. You're not too sure. You get a sense that this soldier is almost equally as terrified as everybody else, but he has to portray himself to be a certain way, and you're not too sure if he would actually shoot you. At this point, the general shouts down to the soldiers, "Open fire!" And the soldiers around the ring just blow away that guy chewing on that woman's leg.
Starts crying and sort of crawling towards the outside.
Who does? The woman?
Robin.
Oh, Robin. Okay.
In the meantime, outside, more gunfire is starting to erupt. And the perimeter is beginning to at first it was just a little bit, and now it seems to be more.
Okay. General goes back onto his radio and says, "Report that gunfire, soldiers."
Sir, more hostiles approaching, sir. They seem to be in no formation of any kind, sir. They're just charging straight towards the locale.
Numbers.
Right now, sir, it's just handfuls. We can control them with the machine gun, sir.
Very well.
At this time, Robin is now on her belly, sort of crying, just distraught, trying to crawl past this soldier and trying to coax Angelica. Well, not even, she's forgotten about Angelica at this point. She's just cacked her pants because there's just gunfire going off. This guy she's known her whole life has just turned on his wife that she's known her whole life and has just started eating her. She's completely freaked out now. These soldiers are just blowing them to pieces.
And at this point, everybody stopped. There's mass panic in this community centre. Everyone panics for that main entrance. The gunfire, the blood, everyone is desperate to get out. The soldiers are really struggling to contain these people, screaming, "Get back, we will shoot, get back." But literally the words are washing over people as if the wind. The panic is set in.
She's almost past this soldier's legs, and she sort of looks up for the first time, tears streaming down her face, and she sees some people she thinks she recognises in there. But then, sort of, as she wipes tears away, looking, thinking, "Oh, it's Terry." And what she sees is a sort of white, pallid-looking Terry, who's got this weird spasmodic way of moving, shambling towards her, but the soldiers have all got their back turned to him.
The soldiers are constantly, "Just get back!
She screams, gets to her feet and turns to run past the soldier, but also away from what was once her friend.
The soldier butts her right in the chin with the gun as hard as he can. Boom! Get back! As he does that, Larry, did you say? Terry's arms from behind wrap round the soldier's face.
Robin just screams, "Terry, no!"
And suddenly the soldier's gun is just sporadically firing as he's screaming, as the fingers reach under the chin and pull as hard as they can, and literally his jaw just comes away from his face, screaming as Terry just sinks his teeth into this missing jaw part of Terry. Gun
scrabbles, just scrabbling away on the floor with just sort of backwards on the floor, scrabbling away, and then she tries to stand and turn and run away, just blindly.
She's dazed for a moment, and the world becomes a bit blurry, but she recovers. She doesn't get knocked unconscious by the bit. She recovers quite quickly. The adrenaline is surging through her body. Do a perception check. She knows of a back entrance to this place, but so does everybody else. So she splits from the main, the bulk of the people trying to squeeze and get their way, pressing against the main entrance. She remembers, the back entrance, but there's a lot of people going towards that back entrance as well. So both entrances and exits are completely blocked by a swarm of panicked people.
In the meantime, the machine gun fire seems to have gone quiet. The general has been trying to keep in touch, but various radios have dropped out of contacting him back when he demands status checks. The last thing he hears on one radio channel is like, "Sir!"
He looks over the people in the community centre, the panic. He's seeing his soldiers being ripped up. He realises there's no containment, right? You cannot, the infection is here. He turns to the scientists and he says, Protocol B.
The scientists look at him. "Sir, I think that's the best course of action, all things considered."
Grabs the megaphone and over the screaming and the gunfire, Protocol B! Everybody! Protocol B!
And all of the soldiers remove a package, drop their weapons immediately, remove the package, and fucking pull.
Detonation after detonation after detonation.
Went through the whole village. And it just leveled, everything's just... The whole community's just fucking shattered, obliterated in the explosions.
Protocol B, obviously...
Fire erupting in amongst the explosions, like it's like a mixture of napalm and high explosives.
Yeah. And part of the Protocol B scenario was to make sure that before coming into the community centre there was an exit strategy for the general, the scientists and his top guys.
So they, in the meantime...
They've escaped the blast of all this community centre.
And as they're escaping, to their surprise, a civilian follows them, screaming, "Help me, help me!" And it's Robin. She somehow managed to squeeze out and avoid the detonations.
The general grabs her by the arm, throws her to the floor, yanks her arm above her head like that so she can't move, and says, check her quickly now!" And soldiers pile on, pulling the tops up, pulling her sleeves up, pulling everything. "Has she been bitten? Has she been hurt?"
Probably.
She has. She has. In all the commotion and the kerfuffle, she has one scratch on the top of her shoulder. And as the soldier pulls it across, he looks at the general, and the general looks to the soldier. What does she do?
And she's just screaming, panicked, and she's like, "Get away from me! What are you doing?" And she's trying to struggle free.
Suddenly there is a loud noise. Her body goes wrong. And she slumps to the floor. The soldiers step over her as if she was a discarded bag of potatoes.
The general, the 3 scientists, and half a dozen soldiers walk forward as if this was nothing to them. They've seen it all before. They'll see it again, they're sure of this. They get into the nearest armoured fighting vehicle, making sure to set the radio signals for the detonation sequence on all of the other vehicles present. It must be exterminated.
And before, as he's checked all of that, everything's ready to go. Gets he gets the walkie-talkie, the CB. He gets the CB radio, and he says, "Command, this is General Fritz. 10 out of 10 at a loss. 10 out of 10 at a loss. Hopefully better luck next time." An explosion is just erupt as the armored vehicles
Silhouetted against them as it drives away.
10th time they've tried, 10th time they've failed.